Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I have returned from my 4-month absence. Yes, I know my schedule right now is going a little crazy. There have been a lot of things that have been going on right now. I guess I could say some personal things and a lot of people in my life passing away. And in fact, recently I've actually been in a funeral for somebody who was around my age, which was a little tough for me and, well, really expresses the worth of my life. But right now I have returned with a little bit of an announcement. First of all, 0.1% of you are not subscribed. Maybe it's because I'm not telling you to not subscribe, I don't know. That's just me personally, but yes, I personally want to tell you guys a certain goal that I have. And that is, I want to simply get to 1,000 subscribers. It is a goal that I've been wanting for a decent bit, mostly because it is important for 1,000 subscribers and can give me a lot of opportunities for my channel. But, you know, that's just extra YouTube stuff. Why not we get into the meat of this video that you have clicked on, and that is making a Pokémon team for my favorite characters. Personally, I've seen a lot of people do it for just, you know, certain characters like Disney characters, some superheroes characters, you know, celebrities, you know, stuff like that. I feel like there are so many unique characters out there that you could give so many Pokemon teams to just like one character. Like, I feel like no one has really did what I did. I like Pokemon, but obviously I like a lot of other stuff. There are a lot of shows, other video games that I like. So why not I show you my top 5 favorite characters and giving them all a Pokemon team. To give up a little bit of a situation, you guys actually voted for one of those characters, so let's get started. 5, it's actually for a character that I have really grown to love, and actually is from a really big show that I'm a huge fan of, to the point where I think I might be on the same level of fandom as Pokemon, actually, and that is Brook from One Piece. I feel like Brook has a lot of iterations. In fact, I feel like a lot of people have given him a Pokemon team and, you know, made him into a Pokemon, so that's just really cool. So why not I do my iteration for Brook's Pokemon team? First up, I wanted to definitely give him the ace Pokemon, no shot, everyone should just give it, and that is Skeledirge. Skeledirge is just a perfect fit for our skeleton friend. I mean, come on. Skeleton is in Skeledirge's name. I feel like that's just perfect in every sort of way. First of all, Skeledirge has the ability to sing, so much so that the little fire that it had, it just becomes alive and is given a spirit. And because of that, that ghastly spirit that Skeledirge has can be singed on and attack anybody it pleases. The way that Skeledirge's torch song works, I feel like the mic just popping up and, you know, the fire bursting out very much is, I feel like Brook could definitely do that in some sort of way. You know, yes, Brook's more, you know, his attacks are a little bit more ghost-based than not even close to being fire, but I feel like the skeleton side of Skeletor definitely fit around Brook's overall side, and I feel like that iteration of both characters can definitely work out. For a second Pokemon, I wanted to go based more on the powers of Brook, and that is Dusknoir. Dusknoir is a very similar Pokemon to Brook in the ideal way of them taking souls in some sort of way. Its pre-evolution is Duskull, so skeletons are already inside of its iteration a little bit. I feel like the reason it works is because Brook in many cases takes the spirits out of, you know, Big Mom or Mario Gecko's minions and like passes on to the, you know, other world or whatever. Dust Noir does the same thing. Yeah, it's a very creepy, big, horrifying Pokemon, but it's been said that this Pokemon actually just simply wants to like take the souls of those that are trying to pass on and just let them pass on. And I feel like their iteration of them just being like creepy, horrifying, but also like in some way kind of peaceful, kind of works in the iteration of Brooks' team. Next up for number 3, I think this one's also a pretty good one, and that is Frostlass. Frostlass would definitely work in the iteration of Brook having the ability to freeze people. I think it's like the songs of Brook are so cold that it literally freezes its enemies, and I feel like that would also work. Another thing that Frostlass also goes for, Brook gets a little horny sometimes, and you know, Frostlass is a female ghost. I guess that kind of would work. Another thing that Frostlass has, whenever Frostlass has someone she likes, she freezes them. And you know, it's like that iteration on how Brook, you know, likes somebody, you know, is friends with someone, but is just super annoying and never stops singing or doing whatever. And I feel like that iteration very much fits in the line of Frostlass in the sense that they like people, but they have like a weird trope that they had to do to like kind of mess with those people that they like with, intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know. For his 4th Pokemon, it would be Aegislash. I wanted to do Ceruledge, but I don't think the night theme is a little bit too on the nose for Ceruledge, but I think Aegislash works a little bit better because, you know, Brook, for like a good majority of his afterlife, was fighting a samurai to get back his soul, and I feel like the iteration is that like he like revived onto him. And I feel like I wanted to pick Aegislash specifically because I feel like, you know, the heroic spirit that is inside Aegislash can be definitely similar to, you know, the heroic spirit of Brook. Because, yeah, he's goofy and crazy sometimes, but like all the Straw Hats, when stuff gets serious, it gets real serious. And I feel like the ghostly sword with the ghostly swordsman works better than just another ghostly sword Pokemon. So that's why I probably put Aegislash a little bit higher than Ceruledge. Next up, it's actually not a ghost type Pokemon. That is the number 5 Pokemon, that being Toxtricity. Toxtricity is the closest Pokemon to a guitar. You know, besides Toxtricity, I can't really think of any other Pokemon that is inherently very much a guitar. Now, Toxtricity itself is not a living guitar or anything, but it is a guitar-like creature, and you know, with the weird thongs on its body or whatever those are. I think those are like frog sacks, whatever. But you know, very clear that Brook is a guitarist, and I feel like these two can just be jamming out crazy. And maybe for a little bit of another inspiration, Toxtricity was used by a ghost type gym leader. Maybe Brook can like ghost Terra type it or something. I don't know, it's just guitarist with another guitarist Pokemon. Another Pokemon that could also work is number 6, that being his final Pokemon. Another not ghost type Pokemon, but still kind of works, and that being Obstagoon. Obstagoon is very loud and bashful and crazy, and you can already understand why Brook would have this Pokemon. I feel like these Pokemon would just be so loud, all the crew members would just be so annoyed. I feel like Obstagoon just has such a fun, crazy vibe that Brook is similar to. You know, it's, you know, everyone's afraid of Brook, but then, oh, yeah, it's like very fun with the music and stuff like that. When Obstagoon was like jamming at the end of Sword and Shield, it was like people really felt that energy, and I feel like the same way with Brooke. And maybe the dark type also can relate to like how, Brooke can like negate the ghost types. And I feel like the normal type also kind of works, Brooke as a whole is very weird, even as a person, is very weird, but I feel like this iteration of this awesome team could just be jamming out as crazy as possible. And that's number 5. Number 4, it's gonna be a little bit of a weird one. And that's gonna be Behemoth from the Monsterverse, or the Godzilla and King Kong movies. Now, this one's a weird one because most, if not all, of the rest of the characters that I'm gonna go over are humanoid, or humans, or human-like. Behemoth is just straight up a giant monstrous kaiju. There's nothing human about it, and yeah. But who cares? This is my video, and you guys wanted it, so yeah, this is Behemoth. For Behemoth's ace, it would 100% be Great Tusk. They're both giant mammoths, giant-ish. Great Tusk isn't that big, 7'3". It's would be really small compared to Behemoth, but whatever. I feel like there's a lot of things that they're going over. They're both grounded giant mammoths, including the Titan mammoth that you fight in Paldea. So I feel like they're rushing bull rides, and them just using their massive tusks to just crush everything. 100% would work, and I feel like that would just be perfect for Behemoth's team. For his next Pokemon, it would also be another mammoth Pokemon, that being Mamoswine. Mamoswine, yes, I know is a pig, but maybe it could also relate to how Behemoth isn't just a mammoth, it's also half sloth, which I feel like Mamoswine kind of also is a little bit different because, Behemoth is more seen in jungles, while obviously Mamoswine is seen more in icebergs, but maybe I feel like Behemoth at some point probably could go into, the Arctic and be fine. I mean, he does have a lot of fur and is the only real other mammal kaiju besides King Kong, which is kind of sad, but whatever. I feel like that would work. And the number 3 Pokemon would be gonna be another one, that being Slaking. Yes, the sloth Pokemon is gonna be on the giant mammoth. This is actually because not only is Behemoth based on a mammoth, but it is also based on the ground sloth, I'm pretty sure it's called, at least the basic name, which is basically a giant ancient giant sloth. Slaking is a pretty big sloth. Yeah, it's pretty gorilla-like, but it does evolve from a sloth, so there are some attributes of it being a sloth. Another thing too is that I feel like Behemoth is a kaiju that doesn't just want to rampage everything. He only does the stuff he does because of him protecting the ecosystem. So maybe he's more of a chill kaiju, the same way how Slaking is just, this overpowered Pokemon, but it's chill and doesn't really do much. For number 5, it would be a weird one, but hear me out. It's gonna be Cradilly. The reason why I picked Cradilly is for 2 reasons. One, it's said that, spoilers warning or disgusting warning, that Behemoth's feces can create natural life. Editor me here, so it turns out that it's not the feces of Behemoth that creates natural life, it's just the radiation that comes out of him that creates natural life. Okay, back to past me. I feel like Behemoth's old enough to be from ancient times. I feel like all kaijus are, but I feel like Behemoth very much is a very eldritch kaiju, and I feel like because of that, I feel like being a fossil of a plant could probably work. Maybe it could be one of its seeds. Oh my god. Oh, why did I make this video? I feel like it could sort of work. I feel like it's good enough, and it's not gonna work fully, but I feel like it would. And finally, for this number 6 Pokemon, unless I'm counting it wrong, sorry if I didn't give a full team to you, Behemoth. And of course I didn't. And that would be Caparajah. Caparajah is Probably be the second Ace Pokemon if Great Tusk never existed. Mostly because of the very similar iterations, and also it being a Gigantamax, which practically are just Pokemon's version of Kaijus. And I feel like they could hang out. Yes, it does use its trunk more than its giant tusk, but I feel like the destruction is the same, and it could have like really Great Tusk and Behemoth can like pummel it this way, and then Copperajah finishes it off with like a giant trunk crushing. But I don't know. I feel like, you know, it's an elephant, Behemoth's an elephant, and I feel like the shaping of Behemoth and Copperajah are kind of similar. I mean, like, they're very much like long, tall elephants instead of like, you know, most elephants are like wide with like bulky legs. I feel like Copperajah is a little bit on the thinner side, similar to Behemoth. So yeah, I feel like that's a good team. You know, a couple of elephants and then just a plant, because, you know, I'm a creative, weird person like that. Yeah. Number 3, I wanted to do a special character. I feel like most, if not a lot of people know him, especially in the indie community, that being N from Murder Drones. N from Murder Drones is just really fun, he's really cute, but also I love his interactions with everybody. He's just a wholesome guy. So, you know, fun stuff. For his ace Pokemon, I wanted it to be Iron Valiant. Now, one thing that I should say for a good majority of his team is that most of them would just be the Future Paradox Pokemon, but I'll give some leeway and also give some other Pokemon some chance. This one is based on morality that N has. I feel like, you know, technically Iron Valiant is like a very violent Pokemon most of the time, if not all the time. There are times where Murder Drones and N specifically are also extremely violent, especially in the first episode, you know, N trying to kill Uzi, so that's just so something. But also it can relate to maybe like Iron Valiant. Maybe Iron Valiant in some way has the same, you know, friendship and heart shape that both Gallade and Gardevoir have. Especially because it's not only just regular Gardevoir and Gallade, but it's also their Mega Evolution. Which, you know, Mega Evolution is supposed to have even more friendship with the Pokemon in person. So maybe that could also relate to how N has with all of his friends, like N Uzi. And I feel like that would just really work out in many ways. And yeah, maybe they could also be a crazy deal. And also the weapon that Iron Valiant has can be like the same on how like N could have like those knife arms that he sometimes has. I feel like that just really would work in the iteration of this team. For number 2, I wanted to pick Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle at first is a little weird, but the reason why I picked it is because of 2 reasons. One, Blaster kind of equals gun in some way. And, you know, obviously Iron Bundle could shoot out the giant plasma rays of like ice and water, like, you know, and has guns and on his arms, so, you know, attachments of projectiles, let's say. And I also think that N and Iron Bundle are like cute little servants. You know, Iron Bundle is technically like an ancient servant to like a Pokemon civilization at some point. I don't really get that logic, but whatever. It could relate to how like N was like, you know, a servant to Tessa, and yeah, that could work. I feel like that would be a pretty good team. I mean, it would be kind of cute just seeing Iron Bundle and you know, blasting away. And I feel like they would also be blasting away with the 3rd Pokemon, that being Inteleon. Yes, this team does not just have Paradox Pokemon. The iteration of it is mostly just guns. I feel like it even works better because like it's very clear Inteleon has some sort of gun-like weapon. In fact, he shoots water from his hands the same way and shoots his gun arms. And obviously can relate to Gigantamax Inteleon, so now they could just be sniping everyone with bullets and water. Oh, how fun. Next up for the fourth Pokemon, it's Pokemon that I kind of don't really like, but still pretty cool, at least for this team, is Iron Jugulus. This is mostly because N apparently can't go through the sun, and obviously Iron Jugulus is a dark type Pokemon. And also the aesthetic of it being like a very ferocious mechanical flyer is very similar to N, who is very much seen with his very weird, creepy wings. And how unique both of his wings are compared to Iron Jugulus are pretty similar. You know, obviously they're not the same wings, but I feel like just because of how weird and creepy both wings are, I feel like it's just pretty matches the similar attributes. For number 5, I wanted to pick Gliscor. Gliscor is also more of aesthetic, but I think it could also work. First of all, it's another flyer in the dark, but also I feel like the wings are a little bit more similar to N's, and also it has like a scorpion-like appendage tail, which N personally kind of has, you know, not really, but I feel like the tail's close enough. And also, it just has a goofy personality, but also still just being like terror in the dark sometimes. I feel like that definitely works with N's whole idea. And finally, last Pokemon, a pretty big one, I guess, would be Magearna. Magearna, a servant, it's definitely the most robotic of the Pokemon. I guess it's a little further from N since it's more of an ancient type of mechanical robot instead of more of the computerized robot. It's close enough, and I feel like Magearna was made to serve people, and obviously this could relate to how like N used to serve people before killing everybody. And I feel like their aesthetics of also Magearna being the fairy type can also relate to like the niceness of N, you know, how nice they are. And maybe it could work for like an extra servitude for the other robots that N's friends with, like Uzi or Jay. And yeah, that's number 3 for you. Number 2, it's gonna be another indie animation. I guess it's not really a series anymore, but it's close enough to a series. That is Miss Circle from Fundamental Paper Education. This series is kind of a fun thing. I really love Miss Circle in the same way I love Gardevoir. If you know, you know. So let's get over with and let's give her a Pokemon team. Her ace Pokemon would definitely be Weavile. Now, Weavile is technically based on a weasel, but I feel like it's just very feline enough to be similar to Miss Circle's cat form. Another thing that Weavile also has, Weavile always loves just like tearing Pokemon apart and having a smile on their face, which is very potent in Miss Circle's personality too. You know, killing a bunch of kids, loving that. But yeah, another thing too is that I've also learned is that apparently Weavile also hunts in packs, groups of other Weavile, which is also pretty similar to how Miss Circle kind of also hunts other kids with the other teachers, Miss Feeble and Miss Bloomy. And I feel like that iteration can also work in the same way. Number 2 is gonna be Alolan Persian. Alolan Persian is more based on the prideful side of Miss Circle. She's envious of herself, and I feel like she's also, especially in her cat form, is just like acting like a cat. I feel like Alolan Persian is a little bit better than normal Persian because of the dark typing, but also it's like very prideful and, you know, it thinks of itself highly, and I feel like that's iteration of it just being like, you know, pretty much just a casual cat, just thinking of it being prideful, which most cats are. And I feel like because of that, and because of Miss Circle Cat, it's out in a perfect way. For number 3, that would be Hatterena. Hatterena at first doesn't really have anything aesthetic in its design that's close, but first of all, the first reason I picked it is because of the insane height that these two have. Miss Circle is 9'7". That is tall. You probably couldn't even fit in this room. That's how tall she is. Hatterena is a little bit shorter. She's 6'11", which is pretty tall. I think it could fit in this room. I don't know. Yeah, they both are tall, but the reason I picked it is because of the violence that they have. Yes, Hatterena is violent, even though it's a fairy type. Yeah. And the reason I also picked them is they also have some sort of trigger that causes that. For Hatterena, it's noise, and for Miss Circle, it's just anyone who fails her class. And I feel like that this trigger happens, it's like, now I have to just kill anybody who caused that trigger. I feel like that iteration of it just being, both of them tall, some sort of trigger, and both being pretty vicious, I feel like makes Hatterena a perfect pick for Miss Circle's team. For number 4, one's gonna be a little weird. A trope that Miss Circle has is that her favorite food is Oreos. And you know what's good with Oreos? Milk. You know what Pokemon creates a lot of milk? Miltank. That's right, number 4 is Miltank. Mostly because, well, she'll have an endless amount of milk. Instead of having dry, crispy Oreos, she'll have nice, squishy, I guess, Oreos to eat. And I feel like that aesthetic kind of works. I feel like the personality of the Pokemon should definitely feel with their trainer, so that's why I picked this Pokemon instead of a more aesthetically pleasing one like Liepard or something. I feel like just having that would be a really fun way to really express what a Pokemon team could be. For number 5, it would also be another Oreo-based Pokemon. That would be Alcremie. And that would be because supplies of Oreo. Because, Alcremie is literally a living piece of cream, so she'll never run out. Especially when that thing Gigantamaxes. Oh my god. Imagine the amount of Oreos she'll have. She would have so much, she probably would die of gluttony or whatever. Yeah, I feel like the cream iteration and the milk iteration of, the Oreo aspect of Miss Circle would very much work. And I feel like that would be a really good, fun little interaction that they have. And finally, for number 6 Pokemon, that would be Salazzle. I would actually pick Totem Salazzle specifically, and the reason why are actually for a few reasons. For one, the fire type could also relate to Danger Miss Circle, which is from AU, from another creator, and obviously Danger Miss Circle has a flamethrower arm, which is really cool, and obviously Salazzle shoots out fire. The other reason why is because Salazzle is basically a very dominant over all the Salandins, similar how Miss Circle is very dominant to all the other students, and also they really think of themselves as like beautiful bling on the Salandins for Salazzle, and the students for Miss Circle are very, very similar. And also, since we're doing Totem Salazzle, it would also be like, they're both tall. I guess another interesting iteration is the interesting ways that the internet shows them. Yeah, I'm not showing any of that stuff, to say the least. But I feel like Salazzle's iteration of just being like all overtly dominant to the Salandit is just pretty similar to like how Miss Circle is to the students. The Salandit fear the Salazzle, and the same way, fear Miss Circle. And I feel like that interaction just very much works to complete this Pokemon team. Finally, the last number 1 character that I'm gonna give a Pokemon team, I feel like it's just extremely obvious and extremely prevalent, that being Boom Bloom. And giving her a Pokemon team. Pretty easiest thing that people are probably gonna suspect from this video. That I feel like Boom Bloom's team would be very much a grass type and just be straight up grass. Maybe with some other iterations. Her ace Pokemon would be a Sewing Lilligant. I feel like the reason why I picked a Sewing Lilligant is for pretty basic reasons. For one, they are both faceless plants with eyes, and I think they're pretty aesthetically look pretty similar. I mean, they both have flowers on their heads, and they also combat a lot. And I feel like when I picked the Sewing Lilligant, it's because they just look similar. They're female plant creatures, and aesthetically, there's nothing else that's as similar as the Sewing Lilligant. I feel like it's a perfect match. Our second Pokemon is actually going to be a little bit weird. That's going to be Trevenant. Trevenant is weird because it's a tree, and when you see Boom Bloom's design, you don't really see tree. She apparently was a tree and became mutant tree, technically. I mean, she very much doesn't look like a tree, but apparently she is. And because of that, I feel like Trevenant is a perfect tree Pokemon to iterate her. The thing that she highly is just expressively based is that she loves nature, and that is exactly what Trevenant is. So, you know, they're guardians of nature. They're both trees. At least once was a tree. The other one became a tree. It's kind of funny. For number 3, it's going to be another female Pokemon, and that's going to be Serena. Serena works in the same way. I feel like Boom Bloom really has that beauty aspect to her. Serena is a little bit more of a femme fatale. They're both combat plants. They both are female. If someone has to do a power whip or use the Z move, Bloom of Doom, hey, get it? I feel like it would be Serena. And guess what? Bloom of Doom is a Gen 7 thing. Serena's a Gen 7 Pokemon, so hey, that could definitely work in some sort of way. And yeah, her 4th Pokemon would definitely be Roserade. Roserade, I think, works a little bit better than Serena because of the very much flower aspect. It's seen in Boom Bloom's design, you know, she has like a flower on her head. And also, she technically has buds, and well, what's the Pokemon that's a bud in Badu? So why not have the evolutions of that? And I feel like the femme fatale thing, I don't know if Boom Bloom's a femme fatale. Personally, I think she kind of is a little bit, so maybe that iteration of like seeing Hasumi Lilligant, seeing Serena and Roserade on top of Boom Bloom would just be a really cool, fun iteration. And this one is where I get a little weird. For number 5, that being Ninjask. Ninjask is gonna be only non-grass type Pokemon. Technically it's grass type in TCG, so I don't know if that counts. You know, the iteration that Boom Bloom's a ninja is pretty fun. I also wanted to pick Ninja specifically because it's that weird aspect of the ninja. Probably could have picked Greninja. I feel like I wanted to go to Ninjask because of the very much weird aspect. You know, Boom Bloom's a very weird ninja if you think about it. She doesn't use shurikens like the other ninja senseis. Ninjask could fit in her style in the same way. It's just like, technically, he's more of just about the speed. And though I don't think Boom Bloom's the fastest, I feel like the speed could relate to like the speed on like her whipping people. And I feel like that could have a similar vibe to Ninjask, you know, striking people down quickly. And finally, the last Pokemon I feel like would really work, at least aesthetically, would be Rillaboom. Rillaboom has a move that literally just shoots out roots, and many of Boom Bloom's attacks have her like shooting out massive, giant roots everywhere. And it's kind of surprising that other Pokemon don't do that. I guess technically I've given her Cradily, but I didn't want to give like other Pokemon different teams. But I feel like Rillaboom could also be that vibe of like the humanoid standard. And you know, it has hands. It could be just whipping a lot of things with that drum. And I feel like also I like the design of like Boom Bloom can create plants out of like anything, and I feel like the music that Rillaboom has, you know, creating life too, can also just really work as a cool, awesome dynamic. And that is it with the video. I hope you enjoy my little bit of a return. This hopefully won't be the only video I post in this amount of time. Hopefully this video is not like 8 hours long. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. There have been many changes to my channel, and to say the least, I really hope that you guys actually enjoy these videos. I take a lot of care into it, and even though I don't have as much resources as like bigger YouTubers, I still work hard to do as much as I possibly can with the resources I have. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you guys like it. I hope you subscribe, like, comment, do all those YouTube stuff. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye. I'm back, baby. You can't see me. I hope you like this bug shirt. Maybe I could give him a Pokemon team soon. But yeah, dab out. Goodbye. And for all those people who saw my post, ooh, I might be making a Ultra Sun analysis video, so maybe you'll see that video in the future. Hopefully I can make it. And I know you can't see me because I'm weird like that. Goodbye. Dab out. Thank you everybody for watching. This took me a bit to edit, so yeah. Hope you liked the video, and I'll see you guys later.